Believe it or not, this video is actually slightly more difficult for me to record today, just because I actually was able to depend on some people in my support system today to talk to and vent to, and I am feeling a little bit better than when this actually happened. But to try to catch up, this is going to be another vlog. It's not going to be informative as I'd like it to, but I think it helps for other people who are struggling with working with Asperger's and anxiety. There's a lot of anxiety issues for this video. So basically, it looks like my last video was uploaded a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about how I was starting a new job with a major department store, and I was worried they were going to cross-train me to be a cashier, and I was really freaking out about that. And I did have to do the computer training for it, but I don't know exactly what happened. They never actually made me get on the register at all, which is great because I would not want to do that. I thought I was going to have to talk to the HR lady about it. So I've been working there for a couple weeks now. I started at the beginning of August, but I did a lot of computer training for at least a week. So it's like my, I don't know, like my second or 10, I don't know, so many days of actually working on the floor. Now, when I started, I did not realize this, but the woman who's the head, well, they told me they didn't know which part of apparel, clothing I was going to be in. I've always worked either all sections at the amusement park I worked at, or women's, at another store I worked, women's, which also accompanies, when you say women's, includes like women's juniors plus. It also included baby, infant stuff. But even when I worked at the store where I did women, a lot of times they had me on men too, because it's just like where you're needed. But if it's not like your area, you don't know as much, and sometimes you gotta ask for people about it. Well, originally, the first couple girls I talked to said they didn't know where I was going to get put. In my interview, they said they weren't sure because they really needed people all over. And it doesn't really matter to me. I am more familiar with women's clothing, and they're not as heavy. But other than that, it's fine. And it's slightly awkward to be stocking underwear, like boxers, when guys come by. Nonetheless, what happened was the first few days were very chill. There's a young girl who works there who might be considered not so high class, and some people think she's flaky because I guess she is. I don't know her that well. But she's very young, and I would say that's to be expected, and I don't think it's a big deal. I can understand if like you're mad because of people slacking or whatever, but at the same time, I mean, another person who I really like, and God, I'm bad with names, I won't say her name anyway, but she's really nice, but I don't seem to work as much like the same time frame as her. She showed me how to run the phone system there, which I just did 2 jobs back to back. Not telemarketing, but customer service jobs over the phone, which were terrible because people were constantly screaming at you, but I do understand how to, pick up the phone and say, hello, how can I help you, blah, blah, blah. And so she showed me how to use that right away. I did mention to people that I did have previous retail experience, just so they knew I didn't know. It's not like I was coming with nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I can do, basically call reshop or returns, like putting clothes back that got moved out of the correct section, or just stocking the shelves, and just little tiny things. I did a lot more stuff when I worked at that big department store that just closed around here a couple years ago, but I was trained into all that. Obviously, their systems and things are different at this place, but for the most part, the first few days, people were kind of like, they didn't know what to do with me. They thought I was going to be a floater, like going from section to section where they needed somebody, because they need people, basically all of apparel. But then this girl came in who was kind of bossy and said she trains a lot of people, and I got the impression she'd been there a year or two, although she's in her early 20s at the most. And when I asked her about it, she said she's been there a year, but she trains a lot of people. She was very overbearing, and that was probably the 3rd or 4th day that I was on the floor. Like, I was kind of like fending for myself, so to speak. I mean, a couple of the other girls were just like, oh yeah, I recommend that you zone purses, or I recommend that you zone men's pants, or whatever. And like, zoning is just like tidying everything up, and yeah, I'm good at that. So that was cool. Like, I didn't feel any pressure after the cashier thing for quite a few days. But I had originally heard something about somebody who was higher up than me who was supposed to train me, like, for real. And after I was there a few days, this woman came in that I didn't know, and she is the head of the men's department. But to make it clear, I actually attended the meeting this morning, the morning meeting, for the first time, because other girls told me, you know, before, whenever I was more lackadaisical when I first started and these other people weren't here, there's really no need to attend that kind of thing. I did do that at another department store, and they usually run off sales figures and stuff. And they try to do, you know, team building, like clapping and stuff, but it really wasn't even as much as at my other store. And obviously I felt very awkward because I didn't really know anybody there. And the main manager of the store is like bopping all around, and I'm just like, why does he have to keep standing in front of me? Why did I choose the spot to stand in? But anyway, this was literally today. Okay, so let me backtrack and explain why I was worried about today to begin with. Okay, so this woman came in, it was like last Thursday. It was the first time she showed up. And I thought she was going to have me doing stock with her. And she didn't have me do much stock. She was having this other girl and like sort of training her on stuff, who's obviously, this girl's pretty new too. And very young, of course. She's 22, I think I heard somebody say. So, I woke up on Friday, and I was supposed to go to work on Friday. I was upset that I had to go to work because one of my nieces was getting married, and I really, really, really wanted to go. I've only been to one other wedding in my life, and it was for like a friend of a friend that I don't even know that well. And I love weddings, and of course I love my niece. And she's my first niece to be getting married. So, but I legitimately woke up with a medical issue. I had a female medical issue about a year ago that I had to get checked out for, and luckily I don't have anything wrong with me. But at the same time, they had to do biopsies, and that is very painful, and they tell you it's not, but I still have very painful issues sometimes regarding that. And when I say painful, I mean like it hurts to lay different ways in your bed. Like, whenever this kind of stuff happens, I'm usually like the person who does laundry and carries stuff around and everything, and whenever this kind of thing's happening, I just tell my boyfriend, like, I can't pick up anything even remotely heavy. You have to do that stuff. We can't do this, we can't do that. I can't really do anything. And I start at 7 o'clock. I have open availability, and they currently had me scheduled for a bunch of 7 shifts. And I got up at like 6, and I was like, I can't do this. And I called in for the first time, which I know I haven't been there very long to have called in. But it's an automated line. They have a point system. It's not as lenient for people who've been there less than 6 months. But the whole point of this is they have a point system set up, right? And you don't talk to a person. And I heard some stores you do talk to a person, but that wouldn't happen at my store anyways, because I'd be calling so early in the morning when nobody's there. So I called in. I felt bad about it for multiple reasons. Obviously, because I just started. I was feeling terrible physically. And then the day before, the woman I was telling you about was like, oh, well, this other girl who's helping me today, she's not going to be here tomorrow. So I'm going to make up a plan of stuff we can do. And I got up and I was like, there's no way I can go in and do all this stuff she wants me to do. Like, I don't know specifically what it is, but I can't do shit. Like, I can't bend up and down. So I'm just laying in bed with a heating pad and stuff. And then a couple people in my family are getting ready to go to this wedding. And I'm like, if I'm not working, I'm going to this fucking wedding. Like, it's very important to me. So it was outdoor, and that's why I'm so burnt. Like, it's bad. But the point is that after that, I had other plans with my boyfriend and my sister this weekend, and it was great and everything. But then, like, yesterday, I started to get even more worried. Like, I'm going to go in here, and even though everything's set up on a point system where they just automatically fire people if you get too many points, and there shouldn't be, like, any drama associated with calling in, I, as somebody with severe social anxiety and generalized anxiety disorder in general, felt very worried, and all of the scenarios were going in my head. This woman's going to flip out on me. All these bad things are going to happen. And of course, my boyfriend's just like calming me down. He's like, it'll be fine. And I didn't really mention it to my mother because I didn't want her to, like, I love my mother, but she's not the most supportive all the time. So I went in today, did general stuff, was there for hours. 4 or 5 hours. This week I'm supposed to work I'm set up as part-time, so I'm supposed to get around 30 some hours a week. But they said there's possibility to pick up hours, which I thought I wouldn't be doing until I'd been there a little longer. So I was over helping someone fill in at the dressing room, and she said, hey, because she had to go break, and then she came back and she's like, hey, are you off on like such and such days? And I'm like, yeah, I am off on that day. That's my one day that I had like off during the week. I was decided it would have been 5 days straight if I wasn't off that day. And then she's like, well, can you work at a dressing room? And people don't want to work it. Like, now they're down to like one person in the dressing room. I think she's filling in. Like, I never met that lady before. So I was like, yeah, I'll do it because it's not a big deal to me. Honestly, I can do dressing room. So I picked up that day, and now it is not even 12 o'clock. And before, I would have been keeping myself busy with stuff or checking with a couple other people. But now it's like I have to be under this woman's thumb that I don't like. And I just, wondered where she was at. She wasn't around. They paged her. She came up. All I wanted to know is if I could unload some boxes that were on the floor. Obviously, they need put away. If I were working somewhere else for, a more established period of time, I am somebody who can work on their own. I know, I pick up on the habits of what needs done, and I get to doing it. I don't just wait around for people to tell me stuff all the time. But when you're brand new, you want to know that what you're doing is what's needed. So she tells me, yeah, do this and this and that. And then out of nowhere, she's just screaming in my face. Like, it was on this different kind of palette than the other stores I worked at. And she's like, yeah, last week when somebody abandoned me. And I'm like, sorry. And she's like, and she's not listening to me at all, by the way. It's just like someone scream talking at you. She's like, I had to do 4 of these all by myself. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just standing there like, this is the thing. This is the thing that sends me over the edge. Thank you. Thank you, giant corporation, of which I will not say your name. And I'm like, randomly, I am randomly trying to actually get in that I was ill, which someone else who's a gossip asked me about, and I explained the best I could without giving way too much because it's my body and not really any other business. I don't really know these people. And I was like, look, I had an illness, I had a problem, and I would have been completely useless here. But she didn't even hear any of that. She just screamed talking over me. And then it's like a light switches, and she just goes back into, okay, do this and that. So I was like taking deep breaths, taking more Xanax, and I go over and I'm stocking things, and then she's talking to like a new manager woman, and basically kissing butt, and talking to the other girl, and I swear one of the things she says is something like, I'm not really talking to her right now, and she knows why. This, I think I mentioned this in the other video, I do not like working with women. It's ridiculous. There's always these petty fights and squabbles and stuff, and the fact is that she doesn't know shit about what was going on with me, and it's none of her business if I have to call out for work. Whether I just started or I've been there for years or whatever, and I won't be there for years because I believe that's a dead end. She's been there for 10 years, so ooh, she really made something of her life. But, it just makes me, it made me really upset, and now it's making me really angry. And luckily I was able, I waited as long as I could to take my lunch, because there's certain time periods you can do this, because I figured out now why other people do that. They don't want to be around her. So if she goes to take her lunch, and then you stagger your lunch, you almost have a 2-hour period of time where you ain't got to see this lady. So, like, it just bothers me because I'm very good now with customers and very personable and very helpful. And it's like whoever you work with, a lot of the times is the problem your coworkers. They think they're better than you. They all want to boss you around, whether or not they have the full authority to do that. As somebody who was not any kind of manager or supervisor, because I saw all of them in the morning meeting today, she has no right to say anything about my attendance. And as I understand from the HR lady, they don't even do attendance mornings or anything anymore. So she just took out her frustration on me as a person without me really knowing her. And in the same day, she's complaining to people about the high turnover they have in our department. Well, why do you think there's a high turnover when you've got you and the other woman who are having mad mood swings treating people like crap? And there were multiple things going on, and I did not just skip work to go to a very important event. I legitimately felt terrible, and I still feel a little terrible today. But that's not really the point. The point is that that's her job too. I worked at another department store, and I had this happen to me multiple times. Not just in my own department, which is bad enough, but also multiple departments where I ended up having to do stock for like men's and women's and children's and infants and whatever. And you know what I did? I was calm and I worked hard and I put everything away. And was it a big deal? No, because it was my job. And I just started in the last month. And you know, if I wasn't there, that would still be her job like it is now. Do you know what I did when those people came back the next day who had called out because of family illnesses or being hungover or whatever? I said, "How are you doing?" I said, after they said they were sorry that they couldn't help me, that they hadn't been there, I said, "No problem," because it's not a problem, because it's your job. Yes, sometimes you're going to be short-staffed, but guess what? You wouldn't be as short-staffed if you treated people with a modicum of respect and decency. And I have never been treated like this in recent memory. I have had problems with some jobs in the past, like guys ass grabbing and stuff. But the point is that this ruined my entire day and made me want to quit. And I'm on the phone talking to my boyfriend. I'm going back to college, which I need to do anyway. But I don't need to do that based on one bad day at a shitty job.